Well, without any further ado, let's move on to the Q&A part. We all can agree that pyramid should not be stripped-down versions of more established value propositions geared towards the middle classes. So one of you is asking, how does a company go about seeking inspiration for such innovation? Thank you. While not compromising profit? In other words, how do you find the balance between frugal yet quality product and a high profit for a company? Perhaps Jane? Sure.
That's a great question. I think the way that we thought about it was really about, traditional, so our product is not meant to substitute a traditional incubators. Traditional incubators have all sorts of other functionality, but 90% of the functionality sits in temperature regulation. So the way we thought about it was let's focus on temperature regulation, which will help 80% of the babies, and take out all the other features. So we're not going to help the sickest 20%. Let's focus on that 80% and get that 80% right. So we don't want to compromise on quality there, which is why we have felt very strongly about filing for CE mark. Next year we'll be filing for FDA approval. As I said, we just got our International Standards Organization audit, and it's very important that we're not only bringing a affordable but a very high quality product to these markets. It's really about pushing the boundaries on how things have traditionally been done. We've been fighting a lot with the regulatory bodies, thinking about, should there be new regulatory policies for some of these medical products for emerging markets and for bottom of the pyramid. So I think it's just focusing on the main crux of the problem and then simplifying and pushing the boundaries.
Would you like to take on that question as well?
Okay. Yes, I think it's very important for us to grow with our people, with our suppliers, and teach them to grow with us. Sometimes it's not cost. You don't have to spend too much money, and finally they can make better products than you and grow with you. And I think it's our goal.
Yeah, I would add to what I said, that it's about trying to understand your market, the needs of that market, and what we did is ours is, believe it, an extremely small market, so it was crowding out. So we had to find a way of which something different, exploit a new market and opportunity gap again, trying to exploit a new market and trying to get something out of there. So that's what we did. Microinsurance currently contributes approximately 25% of our bottom line. So it's been an extremely successful venture, and I'd emphasize again, it's about having that sense making, that vision, that trying to repeatedly trying to get things done and do new things and create opportunities. So it has to do with profit, absolutely, but it also has to do with the sustainability that has, because if it's not so sustainable next year, I'll have to do something else to pick up the gap that 25% has left. So it's about sustainability and getting the right operational issues resolved to execute properly.
Okay, we have a question here interested in institutional voids. Much of the emerging market exists within politically unstable environments. How do you plan on reaching the customers at the base of the pyramid where security is non-existent? This person even suggests one course of action, lobbying for foreign policy changes in Washington, D.C., for example. So I think the question can be extended not just to political stability, but also to physical security. How do you go about not just market failures, but government failures, where security is quite lax? Is there something that you can comment on this point? Anyone?
In our case, we have to live. We have to do business where we live, and that is exactly what we do with all the opportunities and constraints. There's obviously legal insecurity. There's also physical insecurity and political insecurity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, it's about accepting that rather than complaining about it and trying to do the best job you can possibly can, notwithstanding those limitations. And on the back of those limitations, there are obviously opportunities. And it's up to each one of us to try and pick those up and get working on them in a passionate manner, because that is most of the world is about that. It's about insecurity, is about changing markets, et cetera, et cetera.
I think for us it's combining a number of different models. I said working within the private sector, with governments, with NGOs, even within India, political stability kind of ranges from state to state. So in certain states where the government is not as stable, you see a lot more activity in the private sector. In other states, we hope to work much more closely with the government to deliver our products. And then lastly, in a lot of war-torn areas or disaster-stricken areas, there we plan to work with NGOs to deliver the products. So it's about a combination of different models.
Okay, another question here is interested about the support ecosystem that interesting startups such as Embrace need in order to prosper. So this person is asking, how was your idea originally funded? And if you can think of critical bottlenecks in the support ecosystem of double bottom line projects such as yours. Well, if you can help us identify critical bottlenecks in the support ecosystem for impact investments and
Sure. So Embrace to date has been established as a nonprofit organization. As I mentioned, we're in the process of spinning out a for-profit. So our first bit of funding actually came from business plan competitions, from the Echoing Green Fellowships. There are a couple of resources out there to fund really early stage startups. But what we found is that there were very few organizations who are willing to support product development. They want to support you when the product is ready, it's making impact, but they don't want to support the research and development. And I think that's a big bottleneck in this ecosystem, that you need more foundations or angel investments for those really early stage ideas. Where we're at now, we've just signed up a few social impact investors in the for-profit space to take this company to the next level. And there are a couple of players in the space, like the Acumen Fund, for example. That's a key one. But I think it's really necessary that we have more people who are willing to support and to give larger amounts of capitals, so that organizations like Embrace don't have to spend 90% of their time fundraising in small increments, but can get the capital they need to really scale these projects.
Well, thank you very much. With that answer, we've come to the end of this panel. Time's up, so I invite you all to thank our panelists for this great presentation.